We have begun, and I emphasize we have only begun to strike at Hamas. The images of the devastation and destruction from the Hamas strongholds in Gaza are just the beginning. We have eliminated many hundreds of terrorists, and we will not stop there.
Israel is striking back after a surprise attack on them by the Hamas militants over the weekend. This marks the third day of war between Israel and Hamas. The United Nations says more than 187,000 people have been displaced in Gaza since the beginning of the conflict. The death toll continues to rise. It now crosses 1,500 on both sides, with many more hurt. U.S. officials are confirming at least 11 Americans have died. Here in Indianapolis, there was a large group of the community gathering to support Israel. News 8's Danielle Zukowski was at the event earlier this evening on the north side of the city.
Yes, well, it was a somber event at Beth-El Zedek Synagogue as members of the Indianapolis Jewish community came together to show support for Israel and mourn the death of family and friends in a weekend of violence in the nation.
It's been a horrible 56 hours.
Indianapolis Jewish Community Relations Council and the Jewish Federation of Greater Indianapolis invited all members of the community to come together for an event to show support for Israel. Members of the Jewish community say this affects them all.
We have a lot of family and friends in Israel. It's been horrible. It has been really horrendous, dark days listening to everything that's been going on in Israel.
Michelle and Gadi Bukai have a daughter in Israel. They are in contact with her and so far know she is unharmed, but they have suffered other losses from this attack.
And they entered basically every house and they were killing and shooting at families, children. They kidnapped babies, young children, elderly people, and they dragged them back to Gaza.
Gadi grew up in Israel. He says this violence against Israelis is worse than the Six-Day War.
It's a huge number, and majority of them are civilians, including over 250 young people who were dancing in the fields of one of the kibbutzim.
The Bukais say public support for Israel is important, or else, as they say, Israel stands alone in this fight.
We need the support of the general community, and seeing here some dignitary and some people that are not from the Jewish community stepping forward and to show up as a support, that was super important for us.
The Jewish Federation of North America is asking for donations to the Israel Crisis Fund. We have a link to that on our website, wishtv.com. All proceeds are set to support Israel directly. I'm Danielle Zolkowski for Wish TV, wishtv.com, and like us on Facebook.
Danielle, showing up for racial justice, Indianapolis is holding an event in support of Palestinians this Thursday on Monument Circle. That event will be held at 5:30 p.m. Organizers are calling it a day of resistance. And the Islamic Society of North America released a statement today regarding the conflict in Israel. They say they are deeply saddened by the recent outbreak of war and violence in the Holy Land of Gaza. They added, "We call on the international community to uphold its duty under the United Nations Charter and aim to bring peace and stability to a conflict that has been raging for decades." They also say they stand in deep solidarity with our Palestinian brothers and sisters. National and Indiana lawmakers are condemning the attacks in Israel. News 8's government reporter Garrett Bergquist reports on how our delegation is responding.
Officials from all across the political spectrum are calling for an end to the violence. Congressman Larry Bouchon says the attacks in Israel are a clear-cut case of terrorism.
The international community, other than the Iranians, will be mostly standing with the Israelis on this. And I think, the images are absolutely awful. You can tell it's terrorism because they don't follow any sort of international rules, if there is such a thing, as it relates to combat. They're killing men, women, children, civilians.
U.S. officials so far have confirmed 11 Americans killed and an unknown number missing. Bouchon says he doesn't have any additional information about those Americans other than what's been shared publicly. The U.S. helps fund Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system. Bouchon says he's toured Iron Dome stations near Gaza.
We'll have to look and see what the Israelis might need, and I would see that there would be some conversation in the Congress about whether or not there needs to be supplemental help.
Israeli forces have now laid siege to Gaza. Bouchon says that could push more Palestinians to join Hamas, though he adds the Israelis have to defeat Hamas somehow. Democrats also are weighing in. Congressman Andre Carson says this latest escalation of violence painfully demonstrates the urgent need for just and lasting peace. To achieve this, the U.S. must rededicate ourselves and our resources to a real two-state solution and call for the end of Israel's unfair two-tiered rule over the Palestinian people. State Senator Fadi Kaddoura, who was born and raised in Palestine, says, I condemn violence and the loss of innocent lives on both the Palestinian and Israeli side and pray for immediate ceasefire, peace, and healing. As a Hoosier with family members currently living in Palestine, I understand the pain and anxiety that many Palestinian and Israeli Hoosiers are feeling.
This afternoon, Governor Eric Holcomb ordered all flags in Indiana to be flown at half staff through Sunday. This is in remembrance of the lives lost in Israel. I'm Garrett Bergquist for Wish TV, wishtv.com, and like us on Facebook.